Recreation, relaxation, adventure, home. It's more than just a slogan. At Fort Clark Springs, it's a message we truly take to heart. We're a 2,700-acre gated resort and leisure living community located in Brackettville, Texas. Permanent residents, winter Texans, and visitors from all over the world come to embrace our history and natural beauty. Fort Clark was a U.S. military post for almost 100 years. Today, the fort is still nourished by the Las Moras Spring, creating a unique South Texas oasis which has become a great place to visit or call home.
My parents retired about 11 years ago, and I started coming down to visit because I grew up in Fort Worth area, and I thought they were a little bit insane when they said we're moving to Brackettville, Texas. And I said, where in the world is Brackettville, Texas? Pulling into the gates for the first time, it was like, wow, all right, my parents must be onto something.
I moved here in 1993 and bought this house because I was looking to retire from teaching school, and I had spent a lot of time over here as a child, so I knew about Fort Clark, and I knew about the swimming pool. Love to go swimming in that swimming pool.
I have some ties to the fort, both personally and then from relatives. I had an uncle who was here with the 13th Cavalry when it was actually a base. That was long before I was born, but my dad at the age of 17 was an apprentice stonemason that helped build and repair some of these homes that are around the fort, and especially along Colony Row.
Here at our RV park at Fort Clark Springs, we have 89 pads, and I have come to find that majority of our people who now live here, whether it be winter Texans, full-time residents, stumbled upon Fort Clark Springs per our RV park. They come to visit RVing and traveled around our fort, fell in love with it, and decided to look for property and buy.
My husband had had an illness, and the winter in Indiana, we were in northeastern Indiana, and it really had severe winters up there. He wanted to come down. We did come down and try it, and after meeting the people and the place that we are, there was no doubt that this is what we wanted to do.
The U.S. Army operated Fort Clark from well before the Civil War till shortly after World War II, and the list of those who called the fort home includes some of the top leaders in American history.
Jeb Stuart, famous in the Civil War. Grant passed through here. Sherman was through here. Sheridan was here. Bliss was here. And then we get on to the names we're more familiar with. General Wainwright was here. Patton, of course, you know him from the African campaign.
A special place in the history of Fort Clark belongs to the Buffalo Soldiers of the U.S. Cavalry and to the Seminole Indian Scouts, an elite group of fighters that produced multiple Medal of Honor recipients.
Living amongst history is absolutely priceless. You could be riding on a trail and just see rubble of a building, and your imagination goes wild as to what it could have been like in those days.
We're fortunate enough to have a group. Living History is what it is. We try to concentrate our efforts on educational to the youth, to the young children, and what's really gives you a good feeling is when on Friday you see the students there, and on Saturday you see they brought their parents back and they're able to tell their parents what they learned over there.
My main passion for the fort is the history, and for the history to be acknowledged nationwide. Putting this place on the map and preserving its history and having its story told in the correct manner is important, and it's important for the survival of this fort.
We're sitting on a crown jewel here that very few people know about.
Some of the history at the fort is more aligned with pop culture, such as when a Brackettville rancher decided to get into the movie business.
He was able to team up with John Wayne, and they built actually a movie set, Alamo Village, out on his ranch, and they started production in 1959 of the movie The Alamo. Well, being Brackettville, as small as it is then as it is now, there was a real problem with housing. The story is that John Wayne and company funded the money to convert the barracks in, which is Patton Hall and Bullis Hall, into motel rooms.
I was a kid at that time when that was being filmed. Matter of fact, I was in the movie too, just as an extra. So I remember being able to stand by, Richard Widmark, John Wayne, and Patrick Wayne going to church on Sundays and sitting right in the next pew to you.
To say that the history of Fort Clark is tangible is only half the story. These historic structures are still in use every single day.
We had the most intact buildings as far as a fort goes that are still standing. My favorite is the commissary. It's a 3-story building that's here on the fort. The architectural work on it, it's just phenomenal.
So fortunate to have the building here that we call the Old Guardhouse Museum. It's the original 1874 guardhouse, and probably 90% of the soldiers that ever stayed or stationed at Fort Clark played some part here, either incarcerated in it or on guard duty in it.
What's great, we have what we call Colony Row. And these are old lieutenant generals' houses, and now they are personally owned by civilians.
The house that we bought is called a 49er, and nobody has ever been able to explain to anybody why it's called that, because they were built in the 30s as married NCO housing. And they were built as duplexes, and when we came here, we bought our house. We had already been opened up as one residence. So we really love living here in this house. I say at least once a day, oh, I love my house.
Any of the buildings I walk in to this day, you feel that that energy coming from it, that you imagine and you dream about how it was in its heyday.
The amenities at Fort Clark Springs are numerous, but a good place to start is with the 12,000-year-old spring that has been a lifeline for a multitude of cultures and wildlife.
Lossmore Stream runs completely through the property from the north side out the south side. We have an extremely nice 18-hole golf course. We have a small par 3 golf course, which is on the old parade ground areas.
We have a 300 by 100 foot swimming pool that's spring fed, 68 degrees year round.
And you have the entertainment that goes on all through the year. And you've got the shows that go on down at the theater and down at the open air theater.
The location where Lossmore's Grill is quite beautiful. And it's really nice to have a restaurant there now so that we can go down and sit and have tea or have a meal or not. Just go down and sit and visit with friends. We do that too.
There's 52 miles of trails, 6 miles along the Lossmore Spring. When you're traveling, whether it be by ATV, golf cart, horseback, or running or biking, there are a multitude of treasures you might find along the trail. I couldn't wait to get on horseback and ride these trails that Indians might have ridden on, to soldiers and cavalrymen.
Bird watching is a big issue here. We're in a flyway. We have a bird count every year, and it comes out in the books on the national scale.
Another neat thing about the fort is hunting. My husband, he likes to bow hunt, and at least we don't have to he don't have to travel miles to go to a ranch. Basically, I can text him and say, it's time to get home.
The gun club is fun. We like that too. My husband's the president of the gun club, and we like to shoot.
There was so much going on around here. I learned to play golf. I'd never played. I learned to paint in the art studio. I'd never painted. I learned so many things. I even learned how to play the keyboard. And I was in a little band at the time.
If it's simple relaxation you're after, the serenity here is boundless.
You come home, you can sit out in your back porch, see the wildlife, listen to the birds. You can relax here, I guess is what I really want to say. Where
we live is really, really nice because behind us, the access in the whitetail bed down, it is a neat little piece of heaven we live in.
I like the peace. There's no hustle, there's no bustle around. It's just quite heavenly, I guess you could call it. It is.
The Fort Clark Springs Association has developed a peaceful, secure place to relax without some of the big city worries.
If you hear a noise or something, you can always just speed dial it. They know where you're calling from, or you tell them what unit you're in, and they're always out and about monitoring it, and it's a luxury that you don't get everywhere.
People come and visit if you will, the old folks, and especially if they have kids, they see the wildlife here and how the kids enjoy it, and they can let them walk off the porch and wander without having to worry about, oh, you know, where are they, what's going to happen to them.
More than anything else, Fort Clark Springs offers a great supply of friendly people.
I think basically it's community. It's a gathering of diversified people, and there's a lot of people here that are really neat people.
It's a very close-knit family here, and I call them family because that's what we are. We are a small community, but we have 2,500 acres here and about 860 residents who live on campus. Everybody's a friend. I've had multiple people invite me into their homes and have dinner, and only meeting them once. And then they became lifelong friends.
Whether it's the people, the amenities, the wildlife, the history, or the lifestyle, those who know Fort Clark Springs will tell you it's a very special place.
This is something that needs to be shared. Whether it's the history, whether it's the amenities, whether it's just the serenity here. There's such a potential here that we need to explore.
We have so many people here that are willing to help and see the vision of what we can do with this place, because it is a unique place and it's a nice place to live.
So for me, it's a place where I can live this quality of life at an affordable price. I've traveled extensively, and I don't know anywhere else in the world I can live the quality of life I have here for the minimal cost that it is here.
It can be a place where you want to come and retire, have a second home or a third home, raise a family, live and work. It's endless the amount of things that you can do here for a weekend, a week, or a lifetime.
It is something that you know, the Lord's put here for sharing, and we can't just be stagnant and let, just because we can see it, not share it with anybody else.
Fort Clark Springs, then, now, forever.